Welcome to the Divinely Beautiful podcast, where unseen beauty speaks through faith, healing, and self love. We're learning to become who God created us to be. Today's life note is about self worth and learning that I was already enough. For many years, my self worth was shaped by my pain rather than by who God created me to be. I learned that I was already enough when I truly learned to love myself. I know that sounds cliche, but anything we find value in, we spend time on. Whether it's binge watching a television series, investing in a relationship, or spending time shopping, we naturally give ourselves to the things we value. The pain of what I had gone through as a child was a heavy load to carry. Not having my parents in my life the way I wanted made me feel less valuable than other children who had theirs. I didn't understand why so many difficult things seemed to happen to me, and it left me carrying a sadness that followed me for years. Everything felt like a struggle. Even when I was achieving something meaningful, there was often a cloud hanging over the moment because I didn't have a mother or father there to share it with in the way I longed for. I felt that my role in life was to always be there for others, to give, to support, to encourage. But I didn't know how to receive. My heart was always open, yet there was a pain that flowed from it. One day I became tired of feeling that way and tired of the results I was producing in my life. The change didn't happen overnight, it took years. But that was the moment I became committed to becoming who I was truly meant to be. I learned to pray for myself the same way I pray for others. I learned to give myself the same grace I would offer someone who was hurting. I learned to accept who I was instead of constantly trying to become someone else. And slowly I healed. What I hadn't realized was just how much pain can shape your self worth. Pain can make you feel limited. It can convince you that you're somehow less than other people. It can quietly influence how you see yourself for years. I began to realize how much I had been grieving the loss of not being raised by my parents, and I finally understood that grief was a natural process. I stopped beating myself up for not being strong enough to simply get over it. I gave myself permission to feel what I felt. When I looked at the life of King David, I noticed something interesting. His father is only briefly mentioned when the prophet Samuel came to anoint him as the future king. But throughout scripture, we repeatedly see David's relationship with God. David understood that God's presence could fill places where people had fallen short. That's why the words of Psalm 27 spoke so deeply to me. Psalm 27:10. Though my father and my mother forsake me, the Lord will receive me. When I began to understand how different God's ways are from man's ways, it freed me from the heaviness I had been carrying. I no longer viewed myself through the lens of what I lacked. I began to see myself through the lens of God's love. Lamentations 3, verses 22 through 23 says, because of the Lord's great love, we are not consumed, for his compassions never fail. They are new every morning. Learning to love myself wasn't about becoming someone different. It was about embracing the person God created me to be. I may never fully understand all that my parents faced or the circumstances that shaped their decisions. But as I healed, God helped me see something I had missed for years. There was love in their choice. It was about letting go of the belief that I was broken, forgotten, or less valuable because of my experience. Through God's eyes, I discovered that my worth was never determined by what happened to me, but by who He made me to be. Thank you for listening. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. And remember, until next time, that you are seen, you are loved, and you are divinely beautiful.